Hello, 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 everyone. Dr. Rowena Winkler here, and we have another episode of Revelations with Rowena. I feel like that there needs to be a, I should do a TikTok or something of each time I sing that little intro. I feel like sometimes it's jazzier, sometimes it's a little peppier. So I think that's just fun. So today, speaking of fun, we have Tina here with us to talk about getting prepared and having a backup plan and how to advocate for yourself to get the things that you need so that life doesn't catch you off guard too much. Tina, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Rowena. Thank you so much. I think you should try like the rap style
Oh,
to
like
it.
fricka yo, revelation. Yeah, we'll have to. Yeah, we'll have to. I'm originally from New Jersey, so I feel like I have to
You got
channel.
that. You got it.
Thank you so much. So, we always start off with having you share your story, your journey, where you came from, and how you have arrived at the amazing work that you're doing now.
Oh, thank you so very much for having me come on your show today. It's so amazing. It's so amazing because it's to get my word out there to be better prepared for the unexpected.
Hmm.
I created an app called Your Backup Plan. And it's so easy to use, and you can download it, in the blink of an eye, basically. And it just helps you get better prepared. It's like an assistant so
Mm,
that you can go through the categories and choose the items that you want to do this week or next month or this month or whenever, and update it accordingly. And you've got it all in your fingertips when you need it. Um, I have a podcast and we talk about similar stories just like this, Talking Taboo with Tina with Your Backup Plan. And it's so awesome because it really it really talks about the stories that have driven me to be more passionate about getting my word out there, to
hmm.
be better prepared. Because I'm going to start with square one. Like, if you watch The Little House on the Prairie, I'm sure everybody has. They used to roll up their important documents in brown paper really tight and roll them
Mhm.
all up and tell all the family and friends that, all the important documents were put up in the rafters or in the basement in the rafters or somewhere that was one place that everybody knew where they were.
Yeah.
But what do we do now? We don't do that. We
Mm.
don't even tell your sister where anything is, or a lot of times we don't because it's in the drawer, it's in the closet, it's in the filing cabinet. There's a little bit left in the kitchen cabinet even. Like, it's all over the place.
Mhm.
I've even had clients who went in after their dad passed away and found a will on top of a stack of newspapers on top of the garbage can.
Mm.
And he had told her previously, I've got it all under control. It's all done. I've done a will and everything. It's all okay. But it took her a month just to find all of these documents that she
Mhm.
needed. And it took her almost a week just to get into his house because she
Mm.
didn't have a key.
Mm.
So, all of these things, if you have a single brother or sister or aunt or uncle or even friend, it's very difficult because they don't really share their keys and
Mm.
they don't share their important information.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, it makes it very difficult to think about where is their stuff when the time comes.
Yeah.
And in the last 10 years of making this app, it's created a whole other world, digital asset world. So now we don't get mail, or if we get mail, we might get one or two envelopes in the mail a month.
Mm.
But normally we don't get bank account statements, we don't get
Mhm.
electricity bills, we don't get gas bills, we don't get any of that. So
Mhm.
when someone passes away and you actually go into their home, we used to be able to use what came in the mail slot as, oh, I got to cancel that. Oh, that's their
Right.
account. Oh, I got to pay that, or I got to fix that. And that's where they bank, or that's where they have their mortgage, or, that gave us tips when the mail came in.
Mhm.
But now we don't get that.
Mhm.
We get 0 tips because we're not prepared for the unexpected.
Right.
And that's for us and our own family, but our own parents or the older generation has everything very secretive. And so a lot of times they haven't shared where maybe they've hid their jewelry or their artifacts or their hobby stuff or anything that they think it's all up in their head and we can't seem to, figure out where anything is because it's all up in here.
Mm.
So if we haven't asked those questions beforehand, if we haven't
Mm.
gone through this process of where things are beforehand, before someone gets dementia and they can't tell you,
Right.
I've had clients sitting beside their mom who's passing away saying, Tina, I can't get her to tell me where her bank accounts are because she said, why do you want to know? I'm not dying.
Oh man.
So it's for all ages because
Yeah.
even if your son or daughter or neighbor or friend passes away in a car accident, where's their Facebook account?
Mhm. Mhm.
How do you access their social media? Did they
Mhm.
have a blog? Did they have a website? Did they have another life? Did they have a small business? Were they an entrepreneur? Did they work for an employer? What kind of benefits did they have? Did they
Mm.
have life insurance? The biggest money maker for a life insurance company is you buying the life insurance and paying for it every single month. Why? Because when you pass away, your family and friends don't even know how to get it,
Hmm.
how to put a claim in because they didn't even know you had it to start with.
Mm.
So the insurance company ends up not paying anything because it was never claimed. The other big is funeral arrangements.
Oh
People
yeah.
have made funeral arrangements, but haven't told anyone.
Hmm.
And nobody knows when it comes time to actually passing away, where is their stuff? Did
Mhm.
they have funeral arrangements? They said they did, but what am I going to do? Spend weeks on end calling all of these places trying to figure out if they did?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, these are such important considerations, Tina, and I'm having flashbacks to when my dad passed away in 2013 and seeing my mother and just all of us dealing with making those arrangements and these, his social media, you're right, his Facebook and all of that information. What prompted you to go on, to have this mission and to build this app?
It's crazy because it was one specific thing
Mm.
that it was like a lightning bolt just
Mm.
exploded,
Mm.
actually. And you'll be blown away by it because I have worked over 17 years with insurance and being in a financial business and looking at what people, I'd come by their house. I was like this agent who never did business at work. I always did it at their home so that
Mhm.
their family, their kids could know me. So if something did happen, that they kind
Mhm.
of knew me,
Yeah.
like not really well, but at least it was a familiar
Yeah.
face.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'd say, okay, what kind of insurance policies do you have? And they'd throw them all out on the table. And they usually had, two, three, four, five different policies. And I'd say, well, what do you have? Well, I have this, but they had no clue what they actually had
Mm.
or what it was for, to be honest. Was it disability? Was it life? Was it both? And so that got me prompted. And then I had a girlfriend who, her husband called me one day and said, Tina, can you go pick up Carol from the hospital? She's had this cough and she can't get rid of it, and she's going to go in for tests. And I said, sure. Now, this couple ran a small business, a dollar store in a small town nearby. So I said, sure, just let me know. Well, later on the afternoon, he said, don't bother going because she has to stay in for another day, and I'll let you know tomorrow.
Mhm.
So he called the next day. He said, she has to stay in the hospital. She has to go through lots of different things because she has stage 4 lung cancer.
Mm.
And all she had was a cough that she couldn't get rid of. It was crazy.
Mm.
And so I went to visit her each week, a couple times a week, and I'd bring her a nice big hot cup of tea because everything in the hospital tastes terrible.
Yeah.
And I was so scared because as the weeks progressed, 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, she was getting worse, and she was now on oxygen, practically unable to speak very much. And so when I go up in the elevator and the elevator doors would open, and I would just stand there and think, okay, Tina, take a deep breath. You can do this. I don't know what you're going to expect today.
Mhm.
And one day we were able to go out onto the patio, and this was the mind blowing event for me
Mhm.
because we sat outside on a really nice day like today. And she said, Tina, she took my hand and she said, Tina, I just want to see the birds. I want to see the blue sky. And I want to feel the breeze on my face.
Hmm.
Now, for anybody listening out there, you might think, oh, yeah, so.
Hmm.
But to me, that meant I want to be present. I want you to be present. I want you to be present in the moment. So, because it's so very important to be there for that person, whether
Mm.
you can help heal them, maybe they're in ICU, maybe they're in a coma, or whatever it might be, or
Mhm.
a terrible injury. But to be present means you're not talking about, oh, did I get that stuff paid for at the store? And did I tell them how to get to my bank accounts? And oh, where's my keys? And did I turn this off? And, all of this stuff is going through your head.
Mhm.
It's not the time. The time is to be present so that when the person does pass away, you have no regrets. I should have said this. I should have said that. I could have done this. I could have done that. I shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah.
And it happens all the time. And then after, when you're all stressed out, because it hits you like a shock, like an electric shock just comes through you, and your brain disappears. Your logic brain just, you can actually see it float away
Hmm.
because you're trying to access it and you can't think after that.
Mhm. Mhm.
It just disappears.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then all of a sudden you get all these questions thrown at you, hundreds of questions.
Yes. Yeah.
What do they want? What do you want? What does this work? How do you have to answer all these questions about the person in the funeral home, and you have to answer all these questions with the medical staff, and
Mhm.
whatever it is, and you can't think because you are so encompassed in the moment. And
Mhm.
that's where you should be, but not worrying about all the other stuff, because if you didn't have to worry and it happened, you could literally pick up your phone and say, I got it. I got everything in here. Everything that I can't think of is in here. Or anything that I was never told about, anything that's of their importance, I will have at my fingertips.
Mhm. Mhm. Wow, that's such a powerful story. Thank you so much for sharing. And again, it feels it resonates with me truly because similar interactions with my dad who died from esophageal cancer. So, he was fine until he got a biopsy and realized that he had cancer. And then it wasn't very long till he got really, really sick. So you just never know. But when you're either sick or you're witnessing or you're just, you're in the same space as someone who's really sick, it does make you think about what's important here, and how can I stay present in this moment, and how can I be here for this person. That, yeah, you're so overwhelmed with grief once the person passes, that you're not in the right mind to find keys and all that information. So with that, so for the app, you mentioned categories or ways to keep track of everything in the event that, that someone passes?
Yeah, so in the app, it just guides you through the process of your own information,
Hmm.
and you can put in as much of it as you wish. Like if you don't feel comfortable under the security purpose, then even just to say, I have a Toronto Dominion bank account, a TD bank account, or a Chase bank account,
Mhm.
and you don't even put the account number, but you put where it is. Like
Mm.
it's on 136 Boulevard Street
Yeah.
in Oregon, like whatever it is. But then that person can then take that information and then go to the appropriate authorities to get
Right.
that information.
Right.
Or a safety deposit box in a bank.
Hmm.
Well, you can't just access that because you want to.
Right. Yeah.
First you have to know where it is, what bank it's at, and then you need to know how to access it. Is there a key?
Hmm. Hmm.
And if you have a key, is there a password
Hmm.
to access it?
Yeah.
And bank accounts. Are your names on the bank accounts? Have you looked at that previously with your elder parents or your aunt or uncle or friends? Have you been put on the bank account as an extra, or
Hmm.
is it all in their names?
Hmm.
So all of these things you can think of beforehand, but you can't do it after the fact.
Hmm. I at the start of this, I know you mentioned, right, generationally, that our parents' generation more secretive, more. I'm smiling because I remember, my mom has a safety deposit box at the bank, and just we don't really talk about these things, and especially in terms of health and emotions and all the,
Yeah.
that's not a conversation. What have you seen? So you mentioned you've been doing this work for quite some time. Have you seen a shift in terms of generations and the openness to store and share this information, so that, it really is future oriented? It's thinking about you when you're in that situation, taking care of yourself.
Oh, absolutely. The 80-year-old group, very secretive.
Mhm.
Like I don't know any that I've come across that would be open and telling even their own siblings or their own children or their own grandchildren or best friends, anything like that, anything of where anything is. They're very secretive. So
Mhm.
it's really difficult. And we hold workshops on having these family conversations because if you're
Mm.
just directly in front of your parent or parents and say, hey, mom, I have this worksheet and I want to fill it out. What do you want for a funeral? Do you want to be buried or cremated? Like, it's not, they're taboo types of
Yeah.
conversations that we're not used to having. And so by me having these worksheets, it makes it easier, and I make it like in our workshops, I make it fun. And I make, have appies and wine or coffee and get the worksheets out and then ask everybody that you have around the table the
Mm.
exact same question. So
Mhm.
then I found the older parents aren't so, like, you're not particularly just focused on them.
Right. You're the oldest.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's focus on you, right.
right. And then they feel, well, why do you want to know this? Nothing's going to happen to me.
Yes, yes, yes.
So
Yeah.
it helps alleviate that because then you're asking, Susie who's 20, and then you're asking grandma who's 80, and you're
Yeah,
asking, well, because let's face it, guys, nobody knows when we're going to die,
that's true.
but we know we are.
Mhm.
And it could happen at any age. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter our color, our hair color, our skin color, our
yeah,
age, our language. It
yeah,
doesn't matter.
yeah.
And we're just not prepared.
Mm.
But we think after, like, I don't know, 60 or 70, hey, maybe we should start thinking about this. Why?
Yeah,
Why don't we think of it when we're 20?
yeah.
Why don't we think of getting prepared at all for anything? It could be a hurricane or a
Mm.
wildfire. I talk to people, and there's so many wildfires in California,
Mhm,
Oregon, up the
mhm.
Pacific Northwest coast,
Yep.
Australia, and um, they're becoming more and more vibrant every year. Hurricanes, tornadoes,
Mm.
tragedies. The Florida condo collapse, for example.
Oh my goodness, so awful, yeah.
So horrible. Like, they literally lost their life and
Mhm,
everything that they had
mhm.
in split seconds.
Yeah.
And still to this day, they have found items in the rubble that they've put in a secure place for family to come and visit to see if it was that belonged to their family.
Mm,
Now, I don't know about you, but if I knew what my mom had on her hand for a ring or jewelry, I'd know that was hers because I'd see it often on her. But I don't know everything that she had in her jewelry
mhm,
box.
mhm,
I don't know all her ornaments. I don't know all of that stuff.
mhm.
And so all of this stuff just gets left there because nobody knows who it belongs to.
Right.
So in the app, you can actually go through your house and take photos of items. You can open up your jewelry box and click a picture. You
Mm,
can take pictures of your artwork. You can take pictures of the room for insurance purposes. Because the insurance company, at the end of the day, when you put in a claim, they're going to want the photos.
mm,
So it's not the time when you're given a 5-minute knock on the door and say you have 5 minutes to evacuate.
mm.
Now, that's
Right.
awesome to have 5 minutes before
Yeah,
something occurs, but you can't go around the house taking photos at that point.
right.
What you should be doing is having an emergency kit bag that you grab, and that's in your backup plan. You should have photos that you've already done, which is in your backup plan. You should have all of your documents that are already uploaded
Mm,
that you can grab in a quick second, whether you want to throw photos in there as well, or personal things, but it's a grab bag, it's a grab to go bag.
yep.
And that type of thing gives you, I just want to give people that empowerment before to know that they have everything looked after. And the problem in knowing that is, do you know what to get prepared for?
Mm,
Do you know what you need? You actually don't. I know people, if I asked, 10 people lined up, they'd all say something different. They'd
mm,
all say probably, I need a will and a power of attorney. But other than that, I think I have everything.
mm.
That's like this little tiny thing in
Yeah.
that big picture. And you've gone through it, so you know
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
what's needed.
it's one of those things, right, that you don't know what you don't know, and I just love how with this mission, you are educating people on this and giving them the language and the tools, and I love the worksheets because, yeah, this is not a very fun topic for a lot of folks. A lot of us don't wanna think about the day we die or our loved ones dying, but it's a conversation that needs to happen, And again, unless you've lived through it, you don't know the extent of everything that goes into preparing, for the
Oh,
funeral and getting all the items and assets and everything together. It's a lot.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
And there's so much unclaimed money in the
Mm,
United States, UK, and Australia, and Canada, everywhere around the world. It's growing every month
mm,
because we don't know that Aunt Sally had other bank accounts. We don't know our mom and dad, maybe,
mm.
Like, how many bank accounts do you think you have right now?
I mean, I have a biz account. I have a joint account with my husband and then my own personal fun money account. That's how we do our finances. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, how many people have one? I don't think very many.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think so.
And over time, sometimes we have, a couple at this bank and
Mhm.
maybe two at that other bank, just because it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
the way
for some
things
reason or
have,
another. Yep.
you moved or
I was
whatever
just
it might
thinking
be.
that you moved, right? When I first moved to Maryland from New Jersey, I was Bank of America, and then I switched, when I got married, I switched to another bank, so you're absolutely right. There's
So the
Yeah.
investments are the same thing because maybe you have,
Right.
two or
Mhm.
three, or maybe you do
Mhm.
Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, or, digital assets are crazy right now because there's
Mhm.
lots of reward points, there's airline points, there's um, credit card points, there's
Yeah.
so many Xbox points and gambling points. And if you play the casinos online, or
Yeah.
oh, it's crazy. Like, we don't even know, like, if you
Yeah,
actually
that's so
sat down and say,
true.
what do I have?
So true. That's so true. Wow. Yeah, that's definitely food for thought right there. Just doing an inventory of everything you have because it reminds me, is it is it Sweden or it's definitely a Scandinavian idea, right? Of just not hoarding, right? Like clearing things out and having things ready in the event that you pass away. It feels, at least, from a Western perspective, it feels weird to be like, I'm cleaning my house or like I'm getting rid of my junk because I don't want my children to have to clean up. It reminds me of that notion, right? It's taking
Yeah,
responsibility and accountability now. And again, as you mentioned, who knows? It may be a year from now, several years from now, 20, 50, whatever years from now, but it's having that plan and having that idea and responsibility for you and for your family so that you're when you do pass away, you're not leaving that burden on the people that are taking care of everything.
that's
Yeah.
that's for sure,
Mm.
because we all get thrown at it,
Yes.
whether
Yeah.
we want it or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned too, I just know, I've witnessed this, and I have a friend who's a chaplain who has witnessed this when it comes to funerals and arrangements. Like the family dynamics can sometimes get dicey and tricky, and so yeah, when there's a death in the family, it can bring up a lot of stuff for
Oh,
sure.
yes. We've seen families fighting around someone passing away in
Yeah.
the room. No, she wanted this. No, she wanted that. Like, uh, it's not the time.
Mhm.
Like, if you have everything laid out, there's no disagreements, there's no discussion.
Yeah.
This is what she wanted. She wanted a new ocean wreath. She wanted to be cremated and you can be put in the ocean in a wreath.
Hmm.
Like, that's maybe what she wanted. Maybe she didn't want to be on oxygen. Maybe she didn't want to be on a life machine.
Yeah.
Maybe, and there's been lots of fights in the courts about that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Or that lady who gave everything of her millions to two cats.
Didn't hear
You
about
know,
that one.
yeah, but there's so many. We don't even have to die to use it. We could lose our wallet. And I do this in a workshop too. I say, take your wallet out of your purse or your pocket, put it on the counter, take a piece of paper, and write everything that you think is in that wallet.
Oh
How many?
man.
It's hard.
Yeah, I'd have to think very carefully about it.
Because when it gets stolen or you lose it, it's oh my god, it's like this adrenaline
Yeah.
rush goes through your
Yeah.
body and you get like shivers and your hair stands up on your arms and you're like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
what was in that wallet?"
Yeah, that happened to me in college actually. I was at an event for a class and, I had one of those like little coach clutches and was told it's fine, just put it in there because I was a volunteer for something. Of course it wasn't locked and then it got stolen and I remember just being out of my mind, so emotional. And my college sweetheart, who's an ex now, right? We're not together anymore, but I remember calling him crying and he was just like, "Well, what are you gonna do?" It was just very, and I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
I was on myself. Yeah, so these are just really great, again, considerations and thinking points, and I just want to just honor you for taking the time to go through this and taking your experiences and the experience of being with your friend and that moment, that catalyst moment that led you to do this work and to develop this app. How can folks find out more? You mentioned a bunch of courses and things. Like, how can we all, get educated on this important information?
Well, you have, I think, in the description box below my link. But the app is to start with. Now
Mhm,
you can just do the app. It's easy to use, and you put in your information, and you can, put as much specific information as you wish. And we have workshops for that as well. But I am creating the emerging blueprint, which is going to be a course.
mm,
If you want to call it that, it's more of a program, and there's 12 modules,
mhm,
and it's going to bring enlightenment to what you're actually and why you're doing it.
mm,
So, one session would be, okay, let's get out your insurance documents. What do you have? How to
mm,
understand it?
mm,
When is it going to end? Is it going to cost more? What's that going to look like? Do you need it? Do you want it? That type of thing. It's going to go through having a library of videos that you can watch, sitting at the beach or in the back patio or by the fireplace or in your bedroom or whatever on the couch.
mhm, mhm.
And you can click a video and 15 or 20-minute short videos on interviews with accountants and lawyers
Oh,
and
love it.
specific professionals that are going to be able to enlighten you to understand. I want to help people to understand what they need, why they need it, and what they have.
Mm,
So if something's missing, if they thought, gee, I don't have anything for if I got sick or disabled,
mhm.
maybe I should look into that. That type of thing, because it's all really important. But if we don't know we need it until after the fact, it's pointless.
Right, right. Wow, that's amazing, and I love that you bring in the professionals that you would be interfacing with to get that information and obtain all that wisdom from across the various aspects that we need to think about. Tina, this has been I keep looking at this being so thoughtful. This is a very thought-provoking conversation. I just want to thank you so much for spending time here and sharing your mission, your vision, the work that you've been doing to have us be prepared. And again, like as I said at the start, taking the like advocating for ourselves and for our loved ones and doing what we need to do so that we're not finding ourselves in a place where we're like, "Oh no, where do I even begin?"
Yeah, because it is very overwhelming.
Yeah, super overwhelming, especially as we mentioned, when you lose someone and you're just so fresh with that grieving process. The last thing you wanna do is be looking for some random documents for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or not even knowing what you're looking for.
Right, right, right.
Like, what
So
does it even look like?
yeah.
And how do I find it? And did they have it?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah.
So. All of these things are really, really important, and even between spouses, because a lot of times one does it and the other one doesn't really do the
Yeah.
paperwork stuff.
Yeah, that's me. I'm definitely the one in the dark. So thank you. That is an invitation. That's something that I've been thinking about too, is that I need to be more involved with what's going on and have a sense of where things are and where we're at. Because yeah, for sure. My husband's definitely the one that takes care of that. So
Yeah, and it's usually, one or the other.
mhm, mhm.
And it doesn't mean that you can't have the app on your phone and start putting information in
Right.
it,
Right.
because there might be things that he doesn't even know about you.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, have you ever had the conversation, and this is a small business because you have a small business, you have a podcast, what you'd like to do with your podcast if something happened to you tomorrow?
Mm. Yeah, I haven't thought of that, right? Those are things. Yeah, these are things, and I'm fairly new. My business is not even 2 years old, but again, amazing food for thought, right? Like with the intellectual property and everything that I've been building. Yeah, where does that go? What happens? Really great
Yes,
questions.
and especially important when you start receiving some revenue from
Mhm,
these different things.
mhm.
So then where do you want that do you want it to continue? Do you want to find someone to replace you? Like what and it could be just a replacement. Well, what happens if I'm out of context for 6 months? Do I put it
Yeah.
on pause? Do I just have somebody come in and fill in just for a time? Like
Mhm,
what do I want that to look like?
mhm, mhm. Yeah, as I mentioned before we hit record, at the time of this recording, I got COVID at the start of the month, and that was the first time where laid out, like I could not do any work. I had such bad inflammation in my arms, I couldn't type or write or do anything. And so that really made me think very deeply about, oh, what's going to happen if I can't work, if I get sick. So very, very timely conversation and questions that you're bringing up, Tina.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry you had to go through that. That's
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a wake up call for sure, and I think with these sorts of things, the silver lining is knowing, right, just being more intentional with my time and prioritizing my health and uh making moves and intentional action steps toward these sorts of things, right, Tina? Like having the backup plan and knowing that you never know what's going to happen.
no, we don't. And I mean, contractors are a big pain to the
Mhm.
spouse that's left behind. I'll tell you that right
Mhm.
now. I
Mm.
think,
Mhm.
and dentists, will die and have a heart attack on the golf course.
Mm.
And they have a business that their wives usually don't know anything about.
Right, right, right.
So so now all of a sudden they're thrown with this company, and what do they do with it, and how do they sell it, and what is it worth, and do they
Mm.
continue it? Do they find someone? Like, it's a
Mhm,
mess,
mhm, mhm.
and they shouldn't be dealing with that when they know nothing about it.
Right, right. Well, that's definitely a great reminder for our entrepreneur friends out there because that's definitely another dimension, another layer of this conversation. It's not just personal, right? It's professional. So thank you so much, Tina. This has been a delight. It's heavy, but it's so informative and enlightening. You mentioned that word enlightening, and I feel like that's what this entire conversation was today.
Oh, I thank you. I
Well,
really
folks,
appreciate
yeah.
it.
I appreciate you. As you mentioned, Tina, we will have the links so that you can download the app, learn about the workshops, this amazing program that will be coming through. Be sure to connect with Tina. And next week, we will be talking with Sarita Valmond, who is a chronic pain coach. And she's going to be talking about navigating a chronic pain journey and what to do when you start off with the diagnosis and you're overwhelmed, right? And what are again, I think it's gonna be a very thought-provoking conversation, the questions to ask and the inspired action steps that you can take to be well. So, talking about being well in terms of having everything, your information in order, and then we'll talk about it from a chronic pain perspective. So until then, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week, a wonderful weekend coming up, and we will be back again, same time, same place. Take care, everyone, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you.